Hello, I'm Catherine Sines, the president of the Rotary Club of Hudson. Rotary is a professional organization of a group of men and women who support Rotary International. We also join together by a common interest of service to our Hudson community, and we have a sincere desire to give back. We meet weekly on Wednesdays at Laurel Lake Retirement Community, 200 Laurel Lake Drive, in their dining room. We meet from 7:30 to 8:30 and would like to invite you to join us. For more information about Rotary, go to www.rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the following excerpts from one of our recent meetings and consider joining us on Wednesday morning.
Our Sergeant in Arms, Ron Strobel, is out of town today, so I'm just going to kick the meeting off here. We've got a jam-packed schedule. It's going to be a fun day, so we'll get things started here. Our invocation this morning is by Joe Boisel.
Very well qualified, Joe.
You'd have thought I'd start early to get up here, wouldn't you? Let's pray together. Almighty God, it's only by your goodness that we enter this new day. We pray that you would so assist us by your grace that we would be aware of your presence and aware of the needs of others. Help us to honor you in this life that we might enjoy you forever in the next. Bless our food and our time together, we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Joe. Kelly Brennan will lead us in the pledge and the four-way test this morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
You'll join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. Number one.
Truth.
Is it the truth? Number two.
Is it to carry all concern?
Number three.
Will goodwill and better friendships?
And number four.
Will be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Chris Barker will be leading the song this morning for us. Thanks, Chris.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I figured this morning we could sing You're a Grand Old Flag. There was the word. The last time we tried it without the lyrics didn't go too well. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or a brag. Should an old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
All right, moving right along, Chris will introduce our guest this morning.
Good morning again, Rotarians and guests. So we have a handful of guests with us. If they would please stand when I announce their names. Joe Avella has two guests today, Louise McCorkle and his lovely wife, Carol Avella. Thank you for joining us today. And then Evan has guest George Roth. Thank you so much for joining us today, George. Enjoy our show today. Yeah.
All right, we have just a handful of announcements to kick things off this morning. We're going to have Tom Page come up and share just a brief announcement about the fall fundraiser. Jim, are you coming up as well?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Sounds good.
That's not what we do.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. You got me for 5 weeks. So on your table, should have gotten one of these and a team list. Okay? Yesterday you probably got a bunch of slides from me. Some of you did. Some of the email addresses I have to get straightened out. But this is a time to raise money for our high school seniors for scholarships. Last year, we were able to net enough money to get 3 scholarships. So that's our goal. That was $7,250. Now, it's real simple. Nothing's really changed. We're going to be selling red roses, $20 a dozen. Caramel corn for $15. Or if you don't want to do that, you can donate, or you can do all 3. Okay? This kind of tells you everything. We're starting our sales program today. It's going to end Wednesday, the 13th of December, and we're going to deliver the goods on the 20th. If you buy a bunch of caramel corn, I personally will deliver it to your house or to your place of work. So, pardon me?
What's a bunch?
2. Kelly, get 10 and we'll deliver to your to where you live.
God love it.
Okay. So we're going to keep it nice and simple. We're doing it for the kids, or you're doing it for a spouse as far as buying roses, or maybe for the dentist if you get a lot of caramel corn. But this is a fun time. You embrace it. And by the way, we've got the Service Learning Group. They were superstars last year, thanks to Gail and Lonnie. They bought 86 cans of caramel corn and 9 dozen roses. And they're going to try to beat that this year. So Jimmy's going to talk to you about the teams. Thank you.
Before I talk about the teams real quick, I've been working with Tom for a few years, and I tell you, for somebody that it's a one-man show, and Tom almost single-handedly creates 7,200, 7,500, along with the help of everybody. But Tom, I want to give him a hand right now, and ahead of time for doing this. Okay, we have 5 teams, and everybody's on a team, and about once a week, you're going to hear from your team captain. I'll send them some information they'll pass on about your standings, how we're doing, so we're not waiting until the last 10 seconds and make poor Tom stay up at night wondering if we're going to get to where we need to be. So, come on. There we go. Okay, we're going to have Rotary. I'm going to share the Rotary captain, if they could stand up, and then if you can look on your sheet, and if you're on that team, you can stand up so at least the captain knows who's on their team and matches the name with the face. All right. I don't know. Is Richard here? Not yet. Zabby. Not yet. Not yet.
Sit down, Joe.
Nebbiola's Great Crushers. Is Richard here? Richard's not here. Darn it. So if you're on that team, Dan, are you on that team?
Yes.
All right. Everybody that's here that's on that team, stand up. All right, you got a lot to sell, Dan. David Ash, you're on that team. All right. I assume the rest. Okay. The next captain, Zappy's Tars. There we are. Now it's your. Now you're the captain. You can stand up. Who's on Zappy's team? Joe Boysel, you're on that team. Dan's on the team. Tom Page is standing up. Andy Morris, stand up, Andy. Andy? Oh, Andy's not here. Okay. You can sit down. Next team. McDowell's Big Macs. I didn't see Doug here. All right, on that team, Ron Barnhouse. Stand up. Liz, you're on that team? Gail's on that team? Allison, Liz, yep. Catherine Signs is on it as well. Okay, next team. Clint's Pickle Farm. All the farmers stand up. I asked him to come up with a name. I suggested one. He goes, no, I got a better one. I think it's great. Clint's Pickle Farm. Someday we'll got to know where that came from. Okay, last team. Rebecca's Radical Rascals. I didn't see her here, but I'm on that team. Chris, you're on that team. Kelly, you're on that team. You're on it. Max on it? Okay, great. Okay. You know what you sold last year? All you got to do is do the same or one more. Okay, everybody. We'll hear more every week.
It's that time of the year also for Santa Claus to come to town, and Ed Sogan, Coach Sogan's going to tell us a little bit about Santa on the Green.
We've got a sign-up sheet. It's on December 2nd. We start at 9 o'clock and we finish up at 3. You'll sign up for 2-hour shifts. We do have a setup committee, and a tear-down committee. So the other thing I'm looking for are 2 people to be captains to cover a 3-hour shift, the same as this, Mr. and Mrs. Claus in regards to the event. So it's coming up. We've got absent meeting there. We're not going to have a meeting during the week of Thanksgiving, so we're passing this around now. Remember, it's December 2nd, and we'll remind you, because many of you have memories like me, and you'll forget your times, but we'll be passing this around again. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Clint Samuel has a special presentation for us this morning.
You can tell us about the pickle farm?
Not today. Save that for another day. Not a special presentation, just a special introduction. So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so I have the special privilege of introducing or reintroducing back to the club Lucas. And for those of you that do not know, Lucas is our exchange student from Brazil. He is a junior at Hudson High School. And this morning, not only is he sharing a little bit of his birthday with us, but he's also going to share with us a little bit about the experience that he's had and the activities that he's participated in since joining us in the beginning of August. So if you would all welcome back to the club, nice warm welcome back to Lucas. And he's going to come on up and, again, share with us a little bit about his experience.
Hey, good morning. So, I'm gonna be quick. I just wanna say that's everything doing great on the school. It's cool. I like. It's very different. My grades are good. I don't know how, but it's good. I'm doing photo class. I think it's my favorite class until now. Digital photo. We take some good pictures, and recently got published on school's Instagram with a photo I took. I'm on Makerspace Club, so I make some kind of everything there. Everything you want. And I don't know what to say. So if anyone have some questions to make, I'm here.
Have you made some friends?
Oh yeah, I have some friends there.
All right, good. Are you playing any sports?
No, I was trying to enter on soccer team, but the season's almost over, so I.
You said it was different. How?
Well, high school here it's 4 years. In Brazil it's just 3, and I'm the last year there. So when I go back, I'll be graduating like in November, because the school year there starts in February and ends in December. So I'll be almost graduating. And there we can choose our subjects. We don't have like photo class, this kind of different class. We just have math. And we don't change our classes. Teachers change. So we stay in one class with the same classmates all day, every year. And next year and next year. I've been studying with my friends since I entered in school, so it's all the same friends.
In Brazil, how long do you stay in school? What time till what time?
I think you live on 11th grade there. It's all the same till 11th grade. Here you have until 12th grade, and just 11th.
No, I mean like the morning time.
Oh, okay. On my school, I enter 7:15. This class starts and ends at 4:30, and yeah, it's a big day.
So have you found anyone else in the area who speaks Portuguese?
Yeah, there is a guy on my school who lives in Brazil. He's not a Brazilian, but he's American, but he lived in Brazil, and he speaks Portuguese.
Lucas, what are the reasons that?
We're going to give you a microphone. Okay, remember everyone, they can't hear you on the TV unless you have a microphone.
Oh, okay. It's on. In Brazil, when you said how long your school day is, you have to remember that his school has no after-school extracurricular activities. There are no sports at his school. If you want to participate in those types of things, that is outside of the school. Those are private clubs, things that you have to pursue on your own. So when it sounds to us like your school day is so long, it is completely academic. Okay?
Yeah,
Lucas, can I ask, is the teaching style different in Brazil? I mean, are you working, are you working in groups of students as much in Brazil as you do here?
So
working on projects and things like that?
yeah, here we have like 2 chairs. Like in Brazil, it's by your own all the time.
It's more on your own in
Yeah, sometimes the teachers say, "Oh, pick a." Sorry. Sometimes teachers say to choose a friend and do together, but it's almost by our own. So here it's more in group, I think.
In what way are the teachers different?
Yeah, Lucas, you mentioned before the teachers in Brazil are a little bit different than the teachers here in Hudson High School. Could you explain?
Yes. Like in physics, there is like so many different ways to reach some result, and teachers here teach like a different way that I'm used to. So I'm trying to learn, but I feel so comfortable doing my way. So I don't think in change. So. All right. Thanks. Happy birthday. Thanks.
Happy birthday, Lucas. Thank you for sharing that with us. Moving into our presentation this morning, George Snyder is going to introduce Mr. Art Falco, President and CEO of Cleveland's Playhouse Square.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Lord.
Good morning, guests. Before I do the introduction, I just wanted to give a shout out to Bill Wooldridge, also to Dan Williams and Hal Desasar for retaining the council seats. Congratulations to James Field and Tom Tobin for shepherding through the school bond levy also. So another round of Oh, Phil, you're here. I didn't see you here. No, Phil Herman also. I thought maybe you were on
Phil
vacation.
helped a little bit.
No, Phil Congratulations to you too, Phil. So as you heard, Arts and Culture Month continues this morning with a presentation by Art J. Falco, who is the president and CEO of Cleveland's Playhouse Square Foundation and also of its substantial real estate holdings. When you think of Playhouse Square, you probably think of several theaters surrounding that giant outdoor chandelier at 14th and Euclid. But how many performing arts spaces in all? 4, 5, 6? Well, the total is actually 10. And exactly how important is Playhouse Square as an American performing arts center? Well, it just happens to be the largest outside of New York City. And as a theater restoration project, it is the largest in the world. Over 1 million people see 1,000 curtains raised each year, with Playhouse Square acting as a major producer of its ever-changing shows. It is also one of the few venues able to present Broadway touring productions for 2 weeks or longer. Guiding this theatrical transformation is Cleveland mover and shaker Art Falco. After graduating from Bowling Green State University with a degree in accounting, Art became a CPA and later joined Playhouse Square in 1988 as finance director. He was elected president and CEO in 1981. That was a long time ago. In addition to restoring Cleveland's historic motion picture and vaudeville palaces, Art created a real estate arm that helps Playhouse Square remain financially viable. Moreover, he brought Great Lakes Theater to the lovingly restored Hannah, the Cleveland Playhouse to the Allen Theater, and WCPN and WVIZ to the Idea Center. As a member of the Broadway League, Art is a Tony voter. He is also a trustee of the Downtown Cleveland Alliance and of the Cleveland Convention and Visitors Bureau. He and his wife reside in Shaker Heights and are the parents of 2 daughters. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Art J. Falco.
Thank you, George, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, it's great to be here and to tell you a little bit about the Playhouse Square story. I think George covered half of my talk in terms of statistics and whatever. But first of all, raise your hand if you know the Playhouse Square story. Okay, great. And raise your hand if you've attended a performance of Playhouse Square in the last year or so. Great, just about everyone. So the subject of my talk is Playhouse Square dazzling 365 days a year, and clearly that wasn't the case many, many years ago. So I'm going to give you a little brief history of how we got to where we are, and then to talk about the different parts of our mission, because our mission really falls into 3 areas. First is the performances you see on the stages, which is what people generally know us for. Second is we have a very, very robust education and community engagement program, and we have a few new programs that are very, very exciting. And then third is area development. We actually are a developer. We own a lot of property, and it's not that we want to be an empire builder, but in order to get some things done, we had to take the lead. So I'll talk about a few of those projects and give you a summary of all the things that are going on now, some future plans, because the future is bright. So where did we begin? Playhouse Square is a compilation of a number of theaters that were built in 1921 and 1922. They were built as vaudeville houses, legitimate theater, and silent picture houses, all built by separate developers. In the 40s, 4 million people attended these various performances at Playhouse Square. And then the classic urban story of, as people were moving to the suburbs after the war, all of these theaters were converted into movie theaters, and then in the 1960s, one by one, they closed. So the last theater, the Palace Theater, closed in 1969, and they were all slated to be demolished to create parking lots or a parking garage, as if we needed more parking in downtown Cleveland. What you see here is Jacques Brel's alive and well and living in Paris. And that really was the beginning of Playhouse Square's renaissance. That performance was at Cleveland State University, which is right next door. And they had just ended their run. A young person working for the Cleveland School Board was looking for a place to hold a meeting and was able to get into the lobby of the State Theater, which is a very large lobby, and held the meeting. And that really became his life's mission, and that was, how do we save these theaters? He had no background in urban development, he had no background in theater, but it was all about how do we save the theaters. And so he then went over to Cleveland State to the director and said, we'd like you to move your show, which you just ended, and put it into the lobby of the State Theater. The show then opened. It was to run for 2.5 weeks. It ended up running for about 2.5 years. And where I say that's the beginning of Playhouse Square's renaissance, it showed that if actually there was a reason to come back downtown, people would do that. But the theaters were in pretty bad shape. So this is what the Ohio Theater looked like in the 70s. And as you can see, in fact, it was a theater that, if any of the theaters should have been torn down, this probably was, because it was the smallest at that time of 1,000 seats. There were holes in the roof. It was in awful condition. But it became the first theater that was renovated. It was renovated in 1982 to become the home for Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival. They were on the west side of Cleveland. They were looking for a new home. They actually approached the new mayor at the time, which was George Voinovich, asking if he would support Great Lakes' effort to build a new theater on the lake on the west side. And Voinovich said, I can't support that, but what I can do is I can talk to the leaders at Playhouse Square. This is before my time. And you would then become the first resident company. It all turned out great. That wasn't the plan. The original plan was to renovate 2 other theaters because they had more commercial viability. A 1,000-seat theater needs much more subsidy and whatever. But we took all of the funds that we had and renovated the auditorium. And this is what we have today. But we barely had enough funds to restore the lobby. There was a fire in 1964 that destroyed the entire beautiful, ornate lobby. And so, again, having just enough funds to renovate the auditorium, what was done was creating a contemporary lobby, nice, but really nothing special. In this past year, in a capital campaign where we are undertaking to restore, replace, improve things that we couldn't do over the last 25 years, we actually have not just restored this lobby, but we have recreated it. That's what it looked like in 1921. Nothing except that the staircase was there 2 years ago. So in terms of the ornamentation of the ceiling, the paintings, we were able to find drawings of the architect at Columbia School in New York. And so taking those drawings and then finding some pieces of plaster that were actually up in the cornice, they were actually able to replicate all of that ornamentation. We worked with a company in New York, and we operated this theater during this whole restoration and reclamation. We had a large tube, and so we had workers above, and it took about 10 months. But it was absolutely incredible. So, as I mentioned, what Playhouse Square is most known for are what you see on the stages. You know, this, you probably know of this show, of A Little Phantom of the Opera. And I would say that Broadway is the most popular and most high profile of all of our presentations. In fact, today we have the largest Broadway subscription base in the country. We've surpassed 44,000, which is larger than Los Angeles, Dallas, Philadelphia, Chicago. And it's for that reason that we actually, in this past year, made the decision to expand from 2 weeks for every show that comes to town to at least 3 weeks. It's a big risk, $3.5 million risk, because there are no economies of scale. We basically are buying a show wholesale and then retailing it. So, you know, if you go from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, you're just adding 50% more cost. And but knock on wood, it has worked so far. But although this is what we're most known for, we are a presenter of such a diverse amount of programming. So this is Alvin Ailey, concerts, rhythm and blues concerts, comedy, urban plays, ethnic dance. We do have roughly 1,200 curtains a year, averaging over 1 million people a year. And then we have a little show that's coming next summer that you may have heard of. And this is an incredible phenomenon. It is part of the reason that our subscription base has increased to 44,000. I've seen this show 3 times. It is absolutely incredible, and drawing such a diverse crowd, young, old, black, white, whatever, male, female. It is just something that is to be seen. It's part of our Broadway season. One question that may be asked is, how can I buy tickets? Single tickets are going to go on sale sometime in the spring. What everyone needs to realize is, particularly with Broadway shows, we control very little of anything. We are the local presenter. We don't set ticket price. We don't control anything. In fact, we don't even know at this date what the single ticket prices are going to be. They tell us, and we say, okay. Sometimes we try and push back. They will be expensive. If you've heard anything about this show, they will be expensive, but it's one of these shows that comes along every 15 or 20 years. And the retelling of the Alexander Hamilton story is it's incredible. Miranda Manuel is a genius. But, as I mentioned before, one of the important parts of our mission is education. And you see all of these school buses. If anyone's working downtown, you may see them. We have a children's theater series where we have over 40,000 students from Northeast Ohio that come to various programs. We have an International Children's Theater Festival. We have careers in the performing arts. We have such an array of different types of activities that your eyes would gloss over if I kept talking about it. But it's also about how do we teach young people about theater, about creativity, and all of that, and that's what this is about. I mentioned that we started 2 new programs in the last 2 years, and one is called Disney Theater in Schools. And we were able to get a 2-year grant from Disney, and it amounts to finding 4 schools, and those schools have to be between 3rd and 5th grade, having no type of theater in the school. In terms of the poverty rate, they must be 50% or below the poverty line. And so we go into the schools, we have teaching artists, they work with the students, they work with the teachers, they select a modified, shortened version of a Disney musical. As it's turned out, in both years, 3 schools chose Lion King, 1 school chose Aladdin. So these teaching artists are working with the teachers, they're helping create sets, costumes, whatever, and then they perform at the school for the parents and whatever, that 1-hour Disney musical. And then we bring to Playhouse Square, to the Ohio Theater, all of those students, and they perform 1 number on our stage, many of whom have never been to Playhouse Square. And to say that it's life-changing is an understatement. It's just incredible. It just gives these young people the confidence, and they have to behave. They can't get in trouble. And one great example was a young man who actually played Aladdin, or Ali in Aladdin, and the teacher afterward, he would get into trouble, he would get into fights, whatever, but he knew that if he misbehaved, he wasn't going to be in the play or in the musical. And his whole attitude completely changed. The teacher said the transformation in those 20 weeks or whatever, of how he became more confident, He wouldn't get into fights or anything like that. It was just unbelievable. Now this past year, similar program, Aladdin, the young guy who was playing Ali couldn't stay out of trouble. And so he got bounced from the lead. And so they took this other young kid who was in the chorus and said, "You're now going to play Ali. Here are all the words to the songs." And he says, "I've got them all memorized. I've got it." And he stole the show at Playhouse Square. A second program is called the Dazzle Awards, also 2 years running, and that is for high schools that actually have a musical theater program. And if you know anything about the Tony Awards, this is the Tony Awards for high school students. So there are 13 different categories. We have these judges that go to all of these musicals and they rate them. And they rate them whether it's best costume, best lead male, best lead female, best orchestrations, whatever. And first year we had 19 schools. Last year, 23 schools throughout Northeast Ohio. I'm sorry, I don't know if Hudson was one of the participants, but and so then they're nominated, and so where in most schools, you know, it's the sports guys or girls that get all the accolades. Now it's the theater people, and so you'll have principals will say, "So Joe Smith just got nominated for best lead." And, you know, it's like that type of attitude and whatever. I mean, it just brings so much confidence. They become now the stars. So then they all come to Playhouse Square in the Connor Palace Theater in May. They're working with a Broadway director for a week. They work on an opening number and a closing number, and then it's basically an awards program. And so there are 4 schools that are nominated for Best Musical. They perform a song, each of those schools. The male lead and male female do the same thing. And the winner of the male lead and male and female leads then go to New York to the National High School Musical Theater Awards, called the Jimmy Awards. Those winners then go to get a $10,000 scholarship. One interesting story is a young lady who was from Charlotte, North Carolina, was the winner from South Carolina, from Charlotte, and did not win in New York, but a casting director saw her perform, had her audition for Cameron McIntosh. She then was the lead in Miss Saigon in London as a senior in high school. This past year, Miss Saigon opened in New York, and she was the female lead and was nominated for a Tony Award. So again, life-changing, just incredible. And we're going to continue. This year, we have 26 schools. I think we can get to 30 schools. But it's, again, throughout Northeast Ohio, everywhere from Akron School of the Arts, Elyria, certainly in Cuyahoga County, but it really is an incredible program. So partnerships. Playhouse Square has a number of partnerships. And we've had about a 30-year partnership with Tri-C, first with their Showtime at High Noon, and not most recently, for the last 25 years, their Jazz Fest, where we've expanded the Jazz Fest to indoor performances, an outdoor stage. It's really been a great partnership. We brought the Cleveland Playhouse down with Cleveland State's theater program. We modified and actually shrunk the Allen Theater. The Allen Theater was a 2,500 seat theater. What we needed was a 500 seat theater. And so Cleveland Playhouse needed to upgrade their facilities, and they were right next door to the Cleveland Clinic. And everyone was asking, well, we know the Cleveland Clinic's going to buy your property at some point, so why would any donors provide funds when the clinic would buy the property? Cleveland State was in an antiquated theater called the Factory Theater, so it was an old factory that was almost condemned. So we formed a 3-way partnership to bring them down to Playhouse Square so that they're then using the Allen Theater And then we built 2 new theaters, a small black box theater called the Helen, and the Alcove Theater, which is a very small, contemporary 300-seat theater. Baldwin Wallace, they have probably one of the finest musical theater programs in the country. Many of their graduates actually go to Broadway, and so we partner with them. We were able to get the rights to a musical. They perform at Playhouse Square in the spring. Again, a great partnership. I talked about Cleveland State, and then IdeaStream, where we brought IdeaStream down to Playhouse Square. It was a merger between WCPN and WVIZ. We had an old building right next door to us that was pretty much functionally obsolete, 10% occupied. We needed to expand our education programs as we were growing these various programs, and we didn't really have any dedicated space. And IdeaStream needed a new home, bringing the 2 organizations together. We ended up forming a partnership. We were able to get the building donated to us because there was really very little value. We did a joint capital campaign. That building is now 90% occupied, and and I assume most of you know where IdeaStream is. It's right next door to the theaters in Playhouse Square. But again, a great partnership. They're a distribution network. We're a content provider. So we're going to continue to, as our imagination grows, the ability to maximize those assets are going to be great. I talked a little bit about area development. One of our strategic initiatives was residential, and in our portfolio we had a building that, if you know the Hannah building, a building that's attached to it's called the Hannah Annex, which is where the Hannah Theater is located. And it was a very, very average building. So we decided to move the tenants that were in the Hannah Annex, the office tenants, into the main Hannah building, opening that 8 stories up for apartments. We partnered with a residential developer, creating 102 apartments, and it leased up prior to opening. It's been up and running for 3 years, and there's a waiting list. The Crown Plaza at Playhouse Square, which was the Wyndham Hotel, if you're familiar with that. That was a project that was a tough project. It's 1985 we opened it. We went through a developer who couldn't make a deal. We owned the land. We had not intended to actually be the owner of this hotel. But again, in order to move the project forward, we took a leadership role. We became a partner. We brought Wyndham Hotels in and have owned it now for 22 years. We just refurbished the hotel, $6 million, and changed the flag to a Crown Plaza, mainly because of all the new hotels being built in Cleveland. We felt that the IHG network, Intercontinental Hotels, was a much stronger reservation system than Wyndham, and needing to compete with all this new product was something that was important to us and necessary. Office portfolio, so we own the Hannah building, the Bulkley building, which is where the Allen Theater is located, Idea Center next door, 2 buildings on the corner where Colin Hubbard is located, the restaurant, and then right next door. And then around the corner on 13th Street was a very large building called the Middow Building. Cleveland State needed a scene shop. They needed office space. They needed dance studios and whatever. Cleveland Playhouse needed a costume shop and offices. There was an empty floor. We were able to purchase the building and then lease it to Cleveland State, and then Cleveland State then subleases to an engineering firm that is in the building, and then to the Cleveland Playhouse. We were able to use historic tax credits and all of these other great new markets tax credits so that the rent for both of those organizations is quite low. So that's what we do. We figure out ways to get things done and put things together. And then our gateways and whatever. So 4 years ago, we decided that we needed to create a district identity. So you have all these wonderful marquees that are lit at night, but if people don't actually come into the theaters and see the lobbies, they really don't know how beautiful they are. So the idea was, let's bring the beauty of what you see in the theaters outdoors and create a significant look to the district. So we ended up finding this unbelievable creative individual out of Buffalo who came in with a plan, and the plan was to create gateways, to take some of the features that you find indoors, like a retro sign. There was a large sign on top of the Keith Building from 1922. So this is on top of the Colin Hubbard Building. Obviously, our GE chandelier, which is at the center of Playhouse Square, and which has become an incredible icon. I mean, we thought it would be. It has expanded and sort of blown us away in terms of we see it everywhere. The number of wedding parties that come to Playhouse Square to have their wedding photos taken under the chandelier, with the chandelier as a backdrop, is just, it's astounding. The number of tourists, we've had tour buses stop so that people then would get out and take photos of it. And so it's been what we thought it would be and even more. And then this is, did anyone come to our gala, Dazzle the District? So we unveiled this May 3rd, it's now three years ago. And so we had a benefit gala. We also created an outdoor stage. So we had a band, few bands performing in the evening before it got dark. And we created then this catwalk right down the middle of the street because the street was all closed off. And we had 25,000 people. And it was to light up the GE chandelier. We brought in a singer from the Wicked, which is the musical Wicked. And we turned off all the lights downtown, the street lights and whatever, and choreographed it as she started singing Defying Gravity and walking down, and she would point, and then the marquees would light up, and then the street lights would light up, whatever, and she got right to the chandelier, and then the chandelier lit up. It was probably the most exciting party, I guess, in Cleveland in 50 years. And then we concluded it with a fireworks show, 20-minute fireworks show right off of Playhouse Square. So it was really quite a night. So 2 more slides. One is, who's been to the Hofbrauhaus? Anyone? Well, that was another project that we helped develop. It's a great German-style Bavarian hall with Papa bands. They actually brew all the beer. It's part of the Hofbrauhaus brand. We own the land. We wanted to bring more activity to the Playhouse Square district. They draw about 250,000 people a year. It is really a fun day and a fun night, and would be a great for high school reunions, a big Rotary Club party, whatever. It is really something.
Let's go.
All right. And the beer is great, and the German food is good too. And then last but not least is our latest undertaking, which is a residential project that is in Playhouse Square and is right next door to the Hannah Building. Again, our intent was we need additional parking. We were going to partner with a developer where we would be responsible for the parking, and then a developer would build the tower. It's a 35-story apartment building, 319 apartments, market rate, a great amenity floor. 2 developers came and went because they couldn't make the numbers work. And what I like to say is, I don't know if there are any developers in the room, but what they tell you when they want to come on to the project as to how much money they're going to bring to the project of their own, and what they actually do are sometimes different. So we now, because we have the ability to, assuming the tax laws don't change, sell tax-exempt bonds and whatever, but we have hired the foremost developer in the country called Hines International that develops residential properties, office buildings all around the world, to come in as our owner's rep. And we actually hope to break ground in January. So, and taking reservations. We actually have about 20 of the apartments reserved, and no one has even seen them yet. So that, in a nutshell, is sort of the Playhouse Square story, where we are, where we're going, and I'd open it up for any questions, other than what are the ticket prices for Hamilton, please.
Thanks for the great presentation. I remember back, I won't say when, but I took my now wife to the Palace Theater when they were doing fundraisers to promote the renovation. The transformation is absolutely incredible. The Cleveland Ballet left, Cleveland San Jose. There is now a new residential ballet making its start. Can you tell us a little bit about that and their involvement with the Playhouse?
Sure. Good question. It is true. I mean, we were very sad to see Cleveland Ballet leave. They were a very good regional ballet company, and so unfortunately, I think their aspirations were greater than their financial ability. Gladisa Guadalupe, who was somewhat part of the Cleveland Ballet, has recreated a new ballet. They're much more fiscally conservative, I would say, performing in the Ohio Theater, and they want to grow that program, and we're helping them. And as a resident company, they get reduced rental rates, basically out-of-pocket costs. We help them with some marketing and things like that.
Question. First, thanks for coming.
Sure.
To get something like Hamilton to Cleveland, is this a bid situation you have against other cities, or how does that work?
No, it isn't a bid situation. It actually is all about relationships, and it's all about the market. The fact that we have the largest subscription base in the country is very, very attractive to every producer. And the fact that our facilities are great. We have a great labor market in terms of our stagehands. We have a wonderful relationship with them. So it's very easy for these shows to come to Cleveland, and they love to come to Cleveland. And so they're actually calling us. We don't have to bid.
I have two questions. What's the size of your budget? And I assume that your area development supports the program.
The answer is yes, and partially. How's that? Our budget is $75 million. So when I started 32 years ago, our budget was about $1 million. And we are a nonprofit organization. We earn over 90% of our budget. We do raise about $6 million a year. And most of that is with all of our educational programs that we subsidize, and the upkeep of the theaters, because they're expensive to maintain. In fact, we're in a capital campaign right now called Advancing the Legacy, and it really is about the future. It's about making sure that theaters are as beautiful 30 years from today as they are today, having the resources to provide transportation costs for school kids. We know that school budgets are getting challenged every day, and so we do subsidize some of those transportation costs. We'd like it to be 100%. We'd like to be able to provide more discounts for children's theaters ticketing. We believe that we're in a great position to actually be a home for pre-Broadway shows, where producers will come to Cleveland and actually work on their shows pre-Broadway. We have a partnership with Cleveland State. They're building a film school in the Idea Center. So we're working with the Film Commission and Cleveland State to actually create a new industry, and that is to have students that graduate from college that actually will work, whether they're working in the technical aspects of theater or film, and we believe that that there could be upwards of 500 or 600 jobs created with this. So the campaign is a $100 million campaign. We're at a little over 91 million after 3.5 years. Anyone that wants to close that gap, please see me. So it's but Playhouse Square is all about being a fiscally responsible organization, but continuing to advance. In terms of the real estate, it does help our operating budget, but we look at it as more of a working endowment, that it creates value, because anyone that owns real estate, the profits you take, you put back into the building. You know, whether it's bringing new tenants in or whether it's improving the building. So we see it as a long-term play on real estate.
Two things. One is I have a feeling we will have entries from Hudson. We have a very strong theater program, especially because we have a couple board members here. So, oh, he's gone. Okay. Anyway, the question I have though is when you renovate a theater like the Ohio Palace, how much investment does it take to maintain those renovations? So I assume it's not like you renovate it and that most of the cost is all done.
Well, you're right. Well, certainly if you renovate it, it certainly helps the maintenance for a period of time. But we really do need to spend between $2 and $2.5 million every year in order to update the theaters. As part of this capital campaign, we're doing some things that, again, I mentioned before, we didn't have the funds at the time to be able to invest, such as the Ohio lobby, which is now the George Gunn lobby. We expanded the restroom facilities by 70%, particularly for women, in terms of the number of stalls. We need to replace seats that are 30 and 40 years old. We need to provide better leg room upstairs in some of the theaters for some people that are tall.
We agree.
That's all and that's all part of this campaign. And so the feeling is that we will do these improvements, but we'll have an endowment, which we call a theater preservation fund, which is part of this campaign, which we believe are going to come mainly through planned gifts, so that 10 years from now we have that $50 or $60 million invested, that generates the $2 to $3 million necessary to maintain the theaters. A long-winded answer to your question.
Go ahead, Kathy. Thanks for coming.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
And that building was going to be torn down. Cleveland Foundation took a principal distribution and bought the Bulkley building to preserve it. And it was that kind of partnership we had with you folks that resulted in what's happened here. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, Art, and what you've done. I knew him when he was a kid. I saw him a person of vision, but also a good businessman. And I think every bit of what his promise was has taken place. Art, congratulations. Nice knowing you.
Okay, Evan, you wrapping things up?
Thank you.
I need to move this microphone down a little bit here. Thank you, Art. Great presentation this morning. I want to thank our greeters this morning, our audio-visual team, and we've got our Rotabuck, and then we'll get you on your way here this morning. All right, the payout this morning is a whopping $14, and the jackpot is $447. And I'll have Art pick out our winning ticket here.
4707, Art. Yeah.
All right, last four, 4725.
Nope.
Did you buy all the tickets?
Yeah, well, I threw away all their other tickets.
You put in $28 again. So how much did we buy on it?
Getting down there. It's your lucky day.
That's 3 in a row for you, James?
Not in a row, but 3. Oh, no, wait.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, everyone have a great week. We're going to share Catherine's quote here. Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. And I have a short quote to share with you as well. This is from Will Smith, actually, talking about jumping out of an airplane, but you'll apply this to your life in whatever way that you'd like. The best things in life are on the other side of fear. So with that, have a great morning. There's a board meeting following this meeting, and all of you are welcome. Thank you.
Take care.